You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Mark Reed and Ted Durden, only on LA Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Voice of Reason. My name is Ted Durden, a Southern Democrat.
And my name is Mark Reed, a West Coast Republican.
And together we are The Voice of Reason. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, this is a politically motivated podcast where civil discourse is the order of the day. Where Mark and I discover we have more things that unite us than we do that divide us. Now, normally I toss the ball over to Mark, but this week, after being absent from last week, I'm doing the monologue. And as usual, especially since the lockdown, it's going to be focused on COVID-19, and which has turned into not just a pandemic, but an economic tsunami. Just 33 million people, not just 33 million people have applied for unemployment. The hardest hit have been those making less than $40,000 a year, where we have discovered that 40% of those people have lost their jobs. The people in this country that have been hardest hit by this lockdown are those making less than $40,000. After that, you look at those who earn between $40,000 and $100,000, and I think that number comes in at around 23%. The least impacted are those making more than $100,000 a year. That's at about 13%. But hidden amongst those numbers is the real tragedy. When you think about the fact that parents have now been forced to stay at home, those who have children find it maddening at times, trying to do what they can, educating their children, taking care of them, at the same time trying to work remotely. One of the first businesses that got impacted by this is, of course, childcare. Places like KinderCare, where they've had to shut their doors, lay off employees. And so even when we go back to the business of opening up, it is going to be a trickle. There are some of these jobs that will never return. And I look at this as a watershed event, not just how it affects our day-to-day, not just how it affects our economic lives, but the political repercussions as well. There are a lot of people out there who believe that the coronavirus will bring down the Trump administration, where he will not be reelected. I don't think that is necessarily going to be the case. You look at Joe Biden, who is the Democratic frontrunner. He's been virtually non-existent, period. You hear little to nothing from him. Everybody may not agree with the way that Trump handled the pandemic. I think he did the right thing. I think that what happened with this virus, I don't think any presidency, any administration would have done better than what he did. He took a lot of flack for disbanding the pandemic committee that Obama had created. So what? The only thing that happened is the people that were on this committee, they simply got sent to the regular jobs. That doesn't mean that they did not continue to collaborate or provide crucial information to the Trump administration. Doesn't mean that. I'll go back to what Mark and I have always said. We need to get back to work. What's going to happen in November? It will be interesting to see, because a lot of the states who quickly shut down were ran by Democratic governors. Republican counterparts insisted on leaving the states open. You look at what's happening in Michigan. Now we're talking about armed protesters. Fewer showed up because the governor started easing some of the restrictions. But we have got to get back to the business of living. We have got to find the perfect balance. Will a vaccine be made? Eventually it will. But I think prior to that being done, we will have to deal with what is called the herd community, where so many of us will have been exposed to it to the point that our bodies will already start generating antibodies to help combat this disease. The effects will be watered down. Stay strong, stay safe, keep your social distancing, and everything will be fine.
You know, I think that with the, how would you say what's been happening? you're talking about the people with 100,000 have haven't been hit as hard. Everything is relative. There may be a fewer amount of people that are making $100,000 a year, but yet when you're making $100,000 a year, you're spending $75,000 a year to live. And so their bills are just as high. Okay, and so when you take away all of that income, and then Congress wants to give them $1,200 for each adult, $500 a kid for 10 weeks to live on, and then you try to get the unemployment, going and stuff, you're still not covering what it is that you owe, what you're obligated to, from mortgages, through insurances, through gas, car payments, children, and so forth. And I think one of the biggest things that people are really realizing, you brought up schools and child care. Child care is, yes, it's a big inconvenience. Okay?
Yeah, it is, right.
They're not being able to bring, but it impacts those child care providers
Of course
and
it
their
does.
businesses that they have.
Right.
And you look at, though, the closing of schools, the impact on the economy from closing of schools. Think about all of the farmers, the food. This is why farmers are getting rid of food. I was
The
watching
dairy farmers dumping all the milk.
dairy farmers. There was a guy who has, I think, 200 tons of cauliflower and lettuce in cold storage because he can't sell it.
Right. There are farmers who are having to turn their crops under because they can't sell
They can't
anything.
sell it. And people don't understand when you have a nationwide shutdown of an economy, a nationwide shutdown, even a statewide shutdown of a consumer, which the schools are a huge consumer.
Absolutely.
Huge, because they're giving breakfast, lunch, and sometimes they give them dinners if they're staying in after school programs and so forth. So I think everybody is beginning to have a wide-eyed, open look of how intricate our economy really is. You can close one aspect and you think it's one door, but when you close that one door, you're affecting truckers, you're affecting pickers, you're affecting everybody
Right.
down the line.
It's like when we talked about when the NBA and NFL decided to shut down camps, the NBA stopped having games. Look at the vendors at these venues.
Exactly.
You-
all the way to the parking attendant.
Absolutely. Even the
They
cheerleaders, they may not get much. They may get a daily stipend, but they get something.
Well,
Now
they get a lot.
Now they don't have that.
Think about the tow truck driver that runs around the parking lot for people who locked their keys in their car by
Right,
accident.
yeah.
They got dead batteries. That guy is affected. So
Absolutely.
and you take it down to there when they bring their paychecks home and they spend it at the market. They spend it at McDonald's or Carl's Jr. or whatever. It affects, the ripple effect is so devastating. And this is something I've had conversations with quite often with a lot of people, and that is that, I look at everybody and say, stay safe, use common sense.
Right.
You have the protocols of going out. Normally you have the protocols. You don't want to get sick. You don't want to get the flu. You wash your hands. If you're feeling sick, you stay home.
Right.
Okay, but if you're feeling sick, I don't go around hugging people and shaking their hands if I'm just getting over a cold.
Right.
Okay, I don't touch things and put my hands in my mouth or my eyes or anything else like that. And you learn this when you're campaigning. I haven't been sick yet, and I touch a lot of people.
And
Shaking hands and stuff. I'm touching them the wrong way. Shaking hands and stuff. There's a lot of germs that are passed around that way. And I'm in a lot of different facilities and I'm touching stuff, and I'm very cognizant of my hands. This is all old school teaching that you and I were taught from our grandparents and our parents. We were taught not to spit on the ground. How often you walk around, even in the malls, people are spitting on the floor.
Yeah, it's
and
terrible.
it really bothered. I used to get smacked by the nuns at school for spitting on the schoolyard. They would make us go get a napkin from the what do you call it, the bathroom, come out and clean it up. Is it they say you're spreading your germs everywhere.
Right.
So-
That's why even my mother, as she got older, she had a chronic cough. And she kept a handkerchief with her everywhere she went.
exactly.
If she coughed into it. If she spat, she even spat into it.
Yeah. Well, remember, you have your handkerchief in your pocket. It's nice. It's all folded up. You got the nice points and everything else. That's style now.
Yeah.
That was utilitarian in the old days.
Back in the day. Back in the day.
days.
Absolutely right.
And not only
Absolutely
was it a
right.
utilitarian, if you were a gentleman and the girl started crying,
Right.
here you go. You get the cry, you want it back? No, you keep it.
Exactly.
But this is what I'm saying is that and remember when I read that thing by
The little girl?
Courtney Reagan.
Right, yes.
And it was about this generation's being taught a very valuable lesson. Okay, and I really do believe they are. Now, a lot of people are getting extremely frustrated watching all of the protests that are going on. I was talking to a friend of mine who has a store over on Ventura Boulevard, and he's going broke. He can't keep it up. He's going broke. All right, and it's because he said, hey, look, I've had enough. I'm done. I've had enough. If the supermarket can have people coming in, if Home Depot and Lowe's can have somebody coming in, why can't I have, granted be, everybody wears a mask in my store. He's got a little store. It's probably 30 foot wide by 100 foot deep, right? Why can't I allow people to come in, maybe 10 at a time, maybe, and they're all wearing masks, I have some hand sanitizer there, and they know that, if there's 10 in the store, why can't we do that? But this is where the government, and this is what I've talked about quite heavily, and that is that, okay, and I've said this every time I've tried to lay out a show for us, right? And that is that the COVID virus is going to leave.
Right.
Okay, we will beat it, one way or the other.
Right.
I understand there's going to be, 80,000, 100,000 people that pass away. Okay, and my heart and my prayers go out to them. Okay, and the families of these individuals have lost and friends and stuff. It really does, and I'm not being cold cut about it. But
No.
the issue is the aftermath of this once it's gone. How much damage are we doing to society? And there's one aspect to the damage of society that people aren't talking about, and that is you're a self-independent individual, self-independent
Right. Yes, I
contractor.
am.
You're an entrepreneur. Your girlfriend is an entrepreneur as well. She's very businesslike.
Right.
Okay, this is taking the spirit, the American spirit, and slamming it to the ground of everybody that has worked for a living. I've been a self-employed individual since I was 26 years old. I was in business management prior to that. But this government action of closing down and labeling you as a non-essential worker is crushing the American independent spirit. So when this virus is done, how much damage have they done to the average person that's busted their nut, trying to make a better life for themselves, paying for their way, paying for their kids, paying for their kids' schooling, paying for everything, their mortgages and their rents and stuff. And now the government has taken them and slammed into the ground and saying, you know what, you're not essential, you can't go to work. And not only that, we're going to hire an additional 50,000 people to walk around the neighborhoods and rat on your ass so we can give you a $5,000 fine.
Even if you think about the psychology of it, even the term non-essential. Well, let me tell you something. If you got a family, you're essential.
You're essential.
Every day.
Yeah, every single day.
Every day.
And you're essential to the community.
Absolutely.
You're providing something. I mean,
Right.
the biggest thing that's been in the news quite often is the barber, the salons, right? Hey, I used to wear long hair because traditionally I wore long hair, so I didn't really care,
Right.
but now I have short hair. I start looking really, ratty after about a month, and it's like, hold on a minute. But then remember the public officials. Okay, you see some of them in Congress. I mean, they got beards going on now. Their hair's like, Rand Paul, he looks like a mountain man now. Ted Cruz is starting to look like a mountain man. Some of them were. But then you had other ones that came out. I forget the mayor or the governor of one of the states. She comes out and she's like, look, I'm in front of the public all the time. It's essential that I look good. So it's essential that I go to my hairstylist and get a haircut. It's like, really? You've put yourself that high above population?
Right. Yeah, the average American, right.
It's like, hold on a minute. Are we in the USSR? Are we in the Soviet Union here? Are we in China? Where you peons, we're going to dictate to you. You can't take a bath. You can't cut your hair. You can't do anything. But, hey, I'm important.
Right.
I get to have a bath and nice water and
it sends the wrong message, especially when
it's horrible.
You watch on television every day on some of the news channels like Good Morning America and so forth. People doing Zoom and people, the average American, sharing how a wife may be cutting, or a mother may be cutting her son's hair, or a wife may be cutting her husband's hair because they can't go to the barber.
No, they can't.
And then you have somebody like that who says, well, because I got to look good, I don't care what you're going through.
I value my looks too.
I'm in front of the camera, so I got to do it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I got to be reelected, so I got to look good. On that note, we're going to go for our first commercial break to pay our bills. We'll see you at the other end. Welcome back to the Voice of Reason. I think one of the most prolific comments that were made is that we're all in this together. You've heard that so many times.
Of course,
we're all
basis.
in this together.
Yeah.
But I can guarantee you we're not all in the same boat.
No, we're not.
Not even close.
No, not at all.
And so when you're talking about the individuals that were making under $40,000 a year, that's brutal. That's paycheck to paycheck.
And well, a lot of them, even some of those that are making less than 100,000, because if you don't let the numbers fool you, because of the fact that what we're talking about, or what the numbers really reflect, the reality is that the majority of the people that were hit hardest, regardless of how much money you were making, is if you're in the service industry.
Yeah,
those are the ones that were hardest hit. When you look at your hospitalities, your hotels, those people that clean your rooms every day, those people. I think there was almost, in the hospitality section, which I think was hit the hardest, there was almost 2 million people in that industry alone.
How about restaurants?
Right, and they would be the next. And even though construction is still considered essential, there was over, I think, about 935,000 people that lost those jobs.
Yep. Now you brought up that the number of 33 million people have applied.
Yeah, applied. Yes, applied. Don't mean they got it yet. They applied for it.
Well, they just applied.
Mm-hmm.
How many of them haven't applied because they don't have a computer?
Right.
They don't have the means. All the EDD offices are closed. You can't call. You can't do squat. You got to have a computer. So how many of these individuals haven't applied, but they're out of work?
Right. And some of it was just because of pride.
Yeah, and they're talking about, well, you and I discussed it earlier. I said, I've only collected unemployment in my life once.
Yeah.
That. And when I did, the guy actually at the unemployment office talked me into taking the unemployment because he said, you know what? You're paying for it. And I said, what? And he says, yeah, on your paycheck,
Comes
they're
out of your
taking,
check.
you're putting it into a fund, and at every month past 18 months, you lose that. So wait a minute. I go, what? I've been working for 30 years. And I said, what happens to all that other money? It's gone. So hold on a minute. So the last high quarter out of the last 18 months is what you base my unemployment on, based on what I put into it. But all the other money for the last 30 years is gone?
Gone.
It's like, hold on a minute, that's not even right. He goes, that's the way the system is set.
Yeah.
I said, I've gotten screwed out of 30 years of money that I put into the system.
Yeah, and just as a quick interesting aside,
Yeah.
it would be, I think, the smart thing in a situation like someone like yourself or myself, we
Right.
paid unemployment. If you never claim it, why is that money sent over to Social Security?
Well, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, to just assure you up when you retire, when you
Because
finally become of age, because you've paid into the program.
Yeah, but that's excess money, and you know how politicians are with
Oh, I
excess
know.
money.
Yeah, they have sticky fingers. I know that.
They get excited. It's like, whoa. We had, this is an interesting thing, and I do think that this pandemic and the Democrat leadership response to it as well, and the blame games and everything that's happening is having an effect, especially here in California, the California politics. Now, we had Mike Garcia on our show,
Yes, we
and
did.
I was quite impressed with Mike Garcia, and he was running in the 25th Congressional District, which is the Santa Clarita Valley and the Antelope Valley and the Crescenta Valley, and a little bit of Porter Ranch, part of the district that I'm running in as well, and parts of Simi Valley also. And Katie Hill won it by lying and deceiving the community, making herself out like she was a moderate, and so everybody because all of us have a liberal side.
Oh, absolutely.
All of us want to
do.
help the community out.
Right.
So she came in kind of deceiving the community, and so she was elected. She took a Republican seat. It cost her investors, I believe it was about $8 million.
Something like that.
And so she took a Republican seat that had been Republican for over 30 years.
Since 1998?
No. You see, that's the numbers they're using. That's the last time a Republican flipped a Democrat seat. Is 1998 in the state of California.
Okay.
Okay, Buck McKeon was in office for 26 years.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Steve Knight took
That's
the
right,
seat, was
Steve
in there
Knight,
for
right.
4 years. That's 30 years right there.
Right.
Buck Knight succeeded a Republican. So that seat over there in that little community has been Republican for decades.
Right.
Okay. The city council in that area is Republican. The county supervisor is Republican. The state assemblyman is a Republican. The state senator
It's been
is
a Republican.
Republican.
It's been a Republican stronghold.
It is a conservative, area that believes in family, believes in hard work, lower taxes, and they want to live a safe and clean life. So, and it was an open seat because Katie Hill lasted 1 year before
Had to
she had to
resign.
step down for
Right.
sexual innuendos and also campaign finance fraud.
Right.
Okay, and she's a vicious person. I went ahead and started following her on Twitter. Her language and just her comments are just it's outrageous.
Really?
Yeah, it's so guttural. It's shocking. It even shocks me, and I'm a pretty tough individual, but she's really a guttural person. But anyway, so it was an open seat. Mike Garcia, and it's not taking anything away from what Mike Garcia accomplished. He really put on a hell of a battle because he had to beat Steve Knight still.
I know, because, that's right, because, he
So
ran
Steve
again.
Knight and him came together, and he took the seat. He took it by, I believe, it was like about 13-14%.
I think.
Yeah, and they were saying it was going to be it was 57 to 43 percentage. So that's 14%.
Right.
Okay, so you look at it and you say he ran a great job.
Right.
But it's because those communities got fed up because it is a Democrat plus on registration. Okay, so even the Democrats came out and voted for him because they're realizing. Now, another special election happened the same time. A Republican won that as well.
Where was that at?
In the South Bay area, I believe.
okay.
Right, it's another female that won it. And then you had John Lee, which he represents about half of my district, the 30th district, and he won it as a Republican.
Right.
Okay. Then you have Christy Smith, who resigned as a state assemblywoman, Democrat, okay, which is Simi Valley, Porter Ranch, Chatsworth, Granada Hills area, and a little bit of Santa Clarita Valley as well. It kind of borders that mountainside. 2 Republicans are in the runoff. None of the Democrats made it through. So you have Suzette Martinez and Lucy Vukovich. We had Lucy on the show once.
Yes,
remember?
we did. Right.
Yes. So those 2. So now you're looking at a certain, I can't say red wave. It is a attitude of the average person in California that's saying, you know what, I've had it with the Democrat leadership. So you're having Democrats voting for Republicans right now because they want something different. They've had it with the stronghold of the Democrat leadership in California. And now if Gavin Newsom gets what he wants, holding the economy closed until the end of August, then I can say we're going to have a red wave because I think it might be a red wave and blood on the streets even, because people are fed up.
Yeah, because
I don't want a government check. I want the government to get out of my way and let me go to work.
Right.
I want to earn my living.
Right. And again, putting necessary precautions in place, the social distancing, the masks and gloves and so forth. Then
Washing your
fine.
hands.
Yeah. And again, it's just common sense approach that you were taught even as a child. Now, have there been some anomalies? Yes, there have. There was a virologist recently that actually contracted COVID-19 through his eyes. Yep. He was on a crowded flight. He had a mask on, he had gloves on, but somehow or another particulates got into his eyes and he got the disease. Again,
He probably touched and then touched his eye.
Well, he claimed that he didn't. He had hand sanitizer. And even there's recently, and I might be getting this wrong, an MSC, which is another version of the COVID-19 that is now affecting kids.
Yes.
But again, as you said, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And we're going to get through this. And I believe at the end of it, it's going to take some time. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight.
No.
We'll get past this, and I think the economy will be stronger than it ever has before. But it's going to be, as I say in the South, it's going to be a tough road to hoe.
Yeah.
It is. But I believe as a nation, as a country, as a society, we have shown that when we pull together as one nation, there isn't anything that we can't accomplish. You look at one of the shows that we talked about, food banks running out of food. There has now been an influx to a lot of these food banks. The miles are now averaging 3 miles long, but we're getting food to the people that need it the most. They are, and I think on kind of dovetailing what you just said about these special elections where Republicans have taken over Democratic seats, like what happened with Mike Garcia. Congratulations, Mike Garcia. Yeah. You're a good man. When you came onto this show, I was very impressed by you. Kudos, and I believe that you'll be a great representative for your district. I believe that you will. And I tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that Gavin Newsom caught wind of these Republican wins, and they're probably scared to be Jesus out of them. And he probably says, you know what? Let me start opening California back up.
No, I think what scared the bejesus out of Gavin Newsom was Elon Musk looking at him saying, screw you. I'm opening up my plant, whether you like it or not.
And he's going to be on the line.
And I'm going to be on the line. Don't mess with my workers. You want to arrest somebody, you're going to arrest me.
Right.
And if you really want to push it, I'm moving my operations out of your state.
Right.
That's what scared Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, because I think it was Nevada. Nevada's been courting him hard.
I think all us peons don't scare Gavin Newsom one damn bit. He couldn't care less. But when you take a multi-billionaire and he's basically saying, come and arrest my ass or I'm moving out of here. You dare arrest me and I'm moving out of here. That speaks volumes.
Right.
But one of the things that we're missing, or you're missing in your comments right now, is I think we need to sit down, and I brought it up in one of the episodes a couple of them back, is that the COVID virus, is an accelerant to pre-existing conditions.
Right, yeah.
When you walk around, right, now granted I know people that have physical anomalies in their biological makeup, that they're predisposed to having extra weight.
Right.
Okay. It has nothing to do with overeating and not exercising. Okay. A friend of mine, he's probably about 480 pounds. He's a big guy. He's 6'1", but really overweight. He doesn't process fat, just fat. So he can't eat fat. Any fats just stick on him and stay there. Okay. So he has a medical issue that makes it that way. However, when you go out in public, right, and this is one of the predisposed conditions that COVID, attacks, because when you're overweight, you have diabetes issues. Right, yeah. You also have breathing
asthma,
issues,
right, respiratory problems,
blood pressure issues. So the COVID attacks that. So when you go out and you look at people, right, and Michelle Obama is addressing it. She said we were an obese nation. So she had that old obesity thing going on. She wanted, healthy foods in schools, and all the kids are throwing the crap out because they want to eat pizzas and McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
This pandemic should open the eyes to our personal responsibility of our health. Because when we're young, I'm sure when you were young, I was invincible. Nothing could stop me. I thought I could stand in front of a train.
Right.
And I'd bounce off the sucker, get up and run away. But now that I'm older, no, that hurts. Inherently, as we grow older, we realize the vulnerabilities. Okay? And this COVID-19 crap, the virus, we should understand as a nation our individual vulnerabilities, but our individual responsibilities to stay healthy, to eat right, to exercise, to be mentally healthy, You know, be respectful of one another. You know, this is what it's all about. I mean, in Pasadena, they had a birthday party. They invited all the friends of the family.
All right, I heard about that. Yeah.
And one of the lady friends of the family, and they weren't wearing masks because they figure it's all family, no big deal. One of the friends show up, you know, coughing away at the party. 5 of them have it confirmed.
Right.
And they suspect 11 more.
Right, yeah.
So she got 16 people sick.
Right.
Right? This is the old adage. If you're sick, stay the hell home.
Stay home. And it's
Take
like,
care of yourself. You don't need to share that.
no, and it's like you said, just personal responsibility. And not just because of the COVID-19, but for the sake of your family.
Everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody.
You know, I mean, really and truly, if you're a mother, if you're a father, your son, your daughter,
Yeah.
you want to stick around. You want to be here. Live a healthy lifestyle.
You don't,
I mean,
you don't
there's
want the guilt of giving somebody a sickness and you find out that they were vulnerable and they died.
right. I
You
mean,
want that guilt?
look at the South. You know, there's a from the South, all kind of sayings. The food groups in the South: salt, sugar, fat, and alcohol. Those are the 4 food groups in the South. You know, but again, it's just indicative of the lifestyle from people from the South, and you got to change it because, as you indicated,
Salt,
because of
sugar,
fat, and alcohol.
fat and alcohol.
Did you ever see that movie, My Cousin Vinny?
Yeah. I love
Remember
it.
when he goes to the little coffee shop and the guy throws that big stick of lard on the on the grill. That's from my childhood.
Yeah.
And do you know they still sell that in the stores?
Oh, yeah.
They still sell lard. Can you believe
Well,
that
you know,
in this day and
see,
age?
being Hispanic, right? My family's Hispanic. My wife's Hispanic, right?
Right.
It always reminds me of Roberto Duran, the boxer.
Oh, right, yeah,
Remember
right,
him?
yeah. Yeah.
He used to on the off times when he wasn't fighting, he'd go back home to his hometown because everything was cooked with lard. He would gain 15, 20 pounds, and it was a bitch for him to get back into shape because everything was lard.
Right.
But when you grow up eating food cooked with lard, there's a taste that is not duplicated by anything.
Let me tell y'all.
tell you, lard is the
let
greatest
me
stuff
tell
in the
y'all
world.
something right here, right now. Being a Southern man, let me tell you something. Back in the days when I was growing up, okay, lard, for those of you who don't know, some of you kids, you millennials, lard, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that? If you were to go to a place, a matter of fact, Vallarta, the Hispanic store,
Right,
still
right.
sells it. It comes in a small red and white
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
It's pure white because fat, and they call it brown adipose tissue, but it's pure white once it's bleached. It's animal fat.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And let me tell you something. When I was growing up, I grew up on that, and especially McDonald's, because back in those days, when that campaign that they had, keep your eyes on your fries, that's because McDonald's fries was cooked in animal fat.
Yeah.
That's why, because animal fat just has more flavor.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the French cuisine, they still use lard because of the flavor. They use pork fat because that's what it is.
Good.
For the most part. But
Yeah,
anyway.
as a kid, I worked at Jack in the Box. Mm-hmm. So we had the big 25-pound boxes of lard.
Right,
Had
exactly.
to drop it in there, drop the griddle down. You had to strain it every night.
Right.
And I still have the scars going right up like this from the bars,
Right,
the heat
right.
bars in there.
Yeah, I
'Cause
remember that.
I lifted it up. You had to hook it up here.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
lifted it up. But I'll tell you, the millennials are missing out on what a real good French fry tastes like.
Oh, my
'Cause
God, yeah.
The old fries had a flavor
Oh, just
I haven't tasted yet. Yeah,
unbelievable.
I mean, it's really
Unbelievable.
good stuff. And on that high note, we're going to go to our midline breaks to pay our bills. So we'll see you at the other end. Hi, I want to welcome Rusty Levin and Harry Nabanian, both trial lawyers for workman comp cases. If you're injured on the job, don't hesitate. Contact an attorney. I did when I was wounded or injured on my job, and I thought I would trust my employer, and it didn't work out quite well. So I found Rusty Levin, handled my case like a professional, worked out way better than any other lawyer that I talked to would have worked out. So Rusty, tell us a little bit about your company of Levin and Nabanian Trial Lawyers.
So at our firm at Levin Albania Trial Lawyers, we handle all matters of workers' compensation, personal injury, and employment disputes, wrongful termination matters, and things like that. We were able to help Mr. Reed out with his workers' compensation case. Unfortunately, workers' compensation injury can be very stressful, intense situation. And at Levin Albanian, we try to, get you the most benefit we can of the law, while also easing the stress and anxiety that comes along with that situation, and getting you back on your feet. My partner, Mr. Albanian, he handles the personal injury sides, and I'll let him take it from there.
And just like all injured employees out there, anybody else who gets injured as a result of somebody else's negligence has rights, and the rights that they need to protect immediately. And they should do that by calling Levin and Albanian trial lawyers and letting us help ease that tension off of you and get you the result you deserve, while also making sure that you get better in the progress. So we're here for you, folks.
Levin and Albanian Trial Lawyers is the best company for you to get a hold of when you're injured or have a personal injury. So give them a call at
213-232-4848, 213-232-4848. Thank you.
and let them handle the stress for you while you recover at home. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Ted Durden, and I want to take a moment to talk to you about trust, and I trust churchandlaw.com. When it comes to workers' compensation and employment law, you can trust churchandlaw.com. If you ever need legal advice you can rely on, it's churchandlaw.com. Black and white, no gray, churchandlaw.com. 818-230-3110, churchandlaw.com. A law firm you can trust and count on.
Welcome back to the Voice of Reason. We're having a lot of fun off camera here for a minute there, and talking about old school, old days and stuff.
Right.
Where the millennials have really missed out on quite a bit of good flavor and good teaching. And that's the reason why this virus is really an educational moment.
Right.
It's devastating, yes, but it's actually on a different level. It's a very educating moment in life of being able to slow down, plan your life out, enjoy your family, enjoy your husband or wife, create better habits for yourselves, cooking habits. And, remember I joked around, I said, everybody's going to make it through this COVID pandemic. Half of them are going to be better cooks, and the other half are going to be alcoholics.
Right.
And it's all the perspective. Which perspective do you want to have? Do you want to be negative about it? And believe me, being in the political arena, I got a lot of negative, because I think the government is really doing the wrong things. It's really screwing stuff up, and they're not relying or trusting people. And like most people will say, look, I understand the first 4 weeks. The first 4 weeks of everything, I understood it. They had a new virus. They didn't know anything about it.
Right.
China, as we have expressed on all past episodes, China lied to us. The World Health Organization lied to us. But we didn't know anything about it.
Right.
Once they started knowing more about it, who was vulnerable, what protocols could be put into place, how can we protect the vulnerable? The government's got to trust the people. They got to trust the people. And, in the natural, herd elimination, for those who don't think it's a real virus, those who don't think it's serious, well, they're going to end up in forest lawn.
Right, they are.
And maybe that's better, for them and their offspring, because they're not going to,
they won't multiply.
You
won't procreate.
You have to take it serious. It is a serious virus.
No, it is.
It is, and it does kill.
Right, and I'm
what
gonna,
percentages, who knows, because the data isn't there, the granular data is not there.
No, it's not.
But the truth of it is, I honestly believe that the government is responding completely wrong. The federal government, President Trump says, open it up with the protocols that we've laid out. It's up to the states to implement it. But we now have Gavin Newsom and Eric Garcetti. They're like, we're not going to open it up to the end of August. It's like, are you insane? There's something wrong with there. The psychological effect that it's going to have on so many people, it's insanity.
No, it really is, and I mean, it's like what they're trying to do is they're trying to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, and that is just
the one they created.
Right. Now, I agree with you as far as how this looks. I think to some degree, families will become stronger. It will certainly improve communication skills. Parents are spending more time with their children. Something else, and you and I talked about it, regarding the China RX. Trump has indicated there are certain drugs that are going to have to be made here in the United States.
Well, like Gordon Chang said, remember, I said, well, we can get our T-shirts and light bulbs from China. And he said, no. And I actually, he said, no, let's get them from South America. And you know what? In the moment, I was not in opposition because I figured the consumer products, right? They can be made over there. Who cares? If it's made a little cheaper and we get it, we save some money, figure great. But you know what? I've said this for quite a while, especially on immigration issues, that we need to realign our economic policies with our southern neighbors.
Absolutely.
Of Mexico, Central America, and South America. How do we help them build, as a leader of the free world, how do we help them build an economic infrastructure that will sustain a quality of life worth living there?
Right.
And we wouldn't have to worry about our borders.
We would not.
And if we monopolize South America, Central America, and North America as one great, fair and equitable free marketplace, we would be unstoppable in the world.
Absolutely.
But yet our leaders are not taking advantage of that. They're not looking at Central America, South America, and how do you develop it. And it's got to get rid of the corruption. There's the drugs are down there. There's murders, all kinds. There's some beautiful territories down there. They're ripe to do this. They're ripe to do it. And it's time that we do it. Let's set up shop. Let's help them. Let's help them and guide them through developing an economy down there it's unstoppable.
Right. And like you said, make it attractive for them where they live. And that will do it.
They can come back and forth and travel just like we do to Canada.
It's like that old adage, okay? Buy a man to fish, you feed him for a day.
Yeah.
Teach him how to fish. He feeds himself for a lifetime. And it would be the same thing. It would be more beneficial to us as a nation if we did more business and set up an economic powerhouse with our southern neighbors, and even with our northern ones in Canada. They're part of the whole triad, as I would put it. That's what we should be focused on, as opposed to sending jobs overseas. Keep them local.
Yeah.
Canada, Mexico, South America, Guatemala, places to the south.
Right.
That's where we should be focusing our economic efforts, because it will pay dividends for us in the long run.
Well, national security will be huge.
Right.
Because we're looking at the security of the southern continents, South America, and North America.
Right.
I always learned that adage too. Feed a man a fish, you fed him for a day. You teach him how to fish, you fed him for life.
Right.
And then you amp it back up again as you give a person a fish, and you've created a dependent. You teach them how to fish, and you've created an independent.
Right.
It's the same thing. I mean, what do you want to create with your actions? And that's what it boils down to. And on that note, you wanted to talk about the $3 trillion. It sounds great, though. I mean, you want some more free money, everybody? I mean, let's just dive into it. Before we're going to dive into it, because I just looked at the time, let's go ahead and do our last ad. And we'll wrap it up with talking about the $3 trillion stimulus package that they want to push through, and they're blaming the Republicans and Mitch McConnell for not doing it. We'll see you at the other end of the ad.
Right.
My erstwhile opponent says I don't accept debate invitations. I accept the League of Women Voters invitation.
The League of Women Voters LA chapter was the one who invited him to the 5 debates with the Battered Women's Organization, with a synagogue, 2 churches, and the American Legion. And he turned down them all flat with the League of Women Voters. Welcome back to the Voice of Reason. Now we're going to dive into this extra $3 trillion. And as I kind of expressed in the beginning, I remember when President Trump wanted to secure the borders, and it was going to cost $25 billion, and they were having a hemorrhage about it. The Democrat leadership was having a hemorrhage about it. $25 billion, we can't afford that. We don't have money. Where are you going to get the money? Well, I'm going to get it from the defense fund. I'm going to get it from here. We're not going to spend any new money. We're going to utilize the money we already have, and it's already been allocated. lawsuits flying and everything else. And now, within the last month and a half, the Democrats and the Republicans have spent $3 trillion, and now the Democrats want $3 trillion more.
Another $3
When
trillion,
25
right.
billion was way too much. But you're going to comment on it, and then I'm going
Right.
to play on that.
Here's my take on it. Okay, is there something more that the federal government could do? Sure. Question is, what should that look like? Now, the Democratic leadership, and remember, I'm a Southern Democrat, okay, and I'll own the fact I'm a conservative Democrat. I don't agree with what Pelosi, Schumer, and the other Democratic leaders are trying to put forth, because again, and we've talked about this before, they're trying to weaponize this pandemic into a political weapon. And so it's a great soundbite. The Democrats want to give another $3 trillion. We want to give another $1,200 to families, increase it to $6,000 if you have children. We want to give money to the essential workers. We want to give money to the local governments. It's too much. If they want to do something more, and I will agree with what Mitch McConnell is talking about, and they're trying to attack him for using a sensical approach. All he's saying is, okay, if you want to do more, we'll work with you. We'll work with the House. But let's just do it in measured degrees. Let's do it slowly. Otherwise, it's going to be the same thing that Mark and I talked about before on the show with the prior stimulus package, where you had money going to the endowment of the arts. I mean, putting money and giving money where it's needed, fine. And they're also banking on the fact that because Trump is desperate to get this economy going again, they're banking on the fact that he'll sign it, which more than likely he will.
No,
but again,
I think it's dead on arrival. In the
I
Senate.
don't know. But again, I think
it's because it's a liberal wish list.
Well, no, and I agree with you there. But that's what I'm saying is my hope is this: is what you and I have said from the beginning. If the Democratic leadership and the Republican leadership come up with something that's a measured approach, I think they'll get it done. But to make it as you have just phrased it, as a liberal wish list, again, that's just too much. It's just putting too much on our. It's putting too much on our economy. You just can't do that.
One of the things that Mitch McConnell is bringing up, and the same thing with Mnuchin is bringing up, is like, look, we haven't even seen the results of the first, packages that have gone out. All the money hasn't gotten there. There's a numerous amount of people that I know haven't even gotten their checks yet.
Right, I know that
so
too.
We have no idea, that infusion of money and how it's going to, affect the economy, because it hasn't gotten there yet. And they're already talking about dumping another $3 trillion in there.
Right.
And I think it's because most of the states are willing to open up now. They're Florida opened up, and they have no new cases. Well, they have new cases. It's not rising up. It's actually continually going down. So the whole fear factor, right? And this is where Gavin Newsom and Eric Garcetti are still using the fear factor. It's like they have destroyed their own budgets. I mean, this is way before the coronavirus. The city of Los Angeles is going bankrupt
was already running out of deficit.
The county of the state of California has already got major problems with the pension plans. CalPERS isn't producing the way they wanted to produce. They were losing and bleeding money like you wouldn't believe.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, COVID happens, and it's like, wait a minute. We have a major budget deficit. And the first people they start threatening to fire are cops and firemen. Like, you can't think of anybody else to fire? You can't think of anybody else to furlough? Maybe your assistants? Maybe the non-essential workers in government, which there's a whole crap load of them?
No
okay,
doubt.
but the first ones they do is, we have to get this because we're going to have to let go firemen and cops, right? Our policemen. And it's like, hold on a minute. You're doing fear tactics now on the average person. If my taxes are going to go to one person or two people or three people, my three people would be cops, firemen, and sanitation workers. Right?
Yeah.
I want my trash picked up.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
And I want my house put out, or my neighbor's house put out, before it burns down to the ground.
Right.
Okay? If that's where my taxes are going to go, that's where I want it to go. If you're going to put a hold on something, of fixing potholes or fixing streets that they're paying 20 times the amount than they should be,
Right.
or you've got, there's so many non-essential workers that work for the county and the city, it's not funny. But they're all essential because they're all family people working. But when you look at a budget shortfall and you want to clean something up, the first people you talk about firing or letting go is firemen and cops. It's like, give me a break.
Yeah.
They're never going to do it. They're just using that as a fear. But
Right.
you were talking about the stimulus package, and I have the some of the wish list here,
Right.
and you can comment on them, right? Okay, and it's kind of funny. It's fiscal aid. It's fiscal aid to states and local governments. The Democratic bill provides more than $900 billion to states, $500 billion to local governments, $375 billion as well as Indian tribes and territorial governments, $40 billion to help prevent layoffs of public workers, cuts to services, and or tax hikes. Like I said, these blue states, some red states, were actually already fiscally unsound.
Mm-hmm.
They were already going bankrupt. I get it. The coronavirus hit them, but you know what? The coronavirus, everything to do with it is being paid by the federal government already. All testing is being paid by the federal government. All hospitalization, all care is being reimbursed by the federal government. What extra is happening? The extra that's happening is because they are so zealot in their closing of the economy, they're not getting taxes, they're not getting gas
exactly what's
taxes,
going on.
they're not getting income taxes, they're not getting sales taxes, they had to put off on property taxes. They're not getting their normal income coming in because they've shut down realtors from making sales.
Right.
You're losing all of that. DMV they're losing all of that. Car sales, facilities are losing all of that.
Right.
So they want to buttress it up. But their biggest problem in the past, and you won't find one economist to argue this, their biggest problem they have is called pension plans. They were all going broke already.
Right.
They continue raising taxes to buttress up the pension plans. Like when they raised the taxes for the schools, right after they negotiated a new contract with the teachers union. It was because they needed to buttress up the pension plan. I mean, the pension plans are out of control.
Oh yeah.
Nationwide, they're out of
Absolutely,
control
yeah,
because
they are.
they figure the money's just going to keep rolling in and
Because
rolling in.
that's where any state's budget, the majority of the money goes towards pension plans. It's just like in the federal government. The majority of that money in the federal government goes for Social Security, goes for Medicare. It goes for those type of social programs.
Well, the social programs, what do you call it? Social Security doesn't even come out of the budget because that's recycled money that comes in.
But
all the
eventually it's going to
constant-
run out, though.
It will.
Right.
It will. So I'm going to skip past the direct payments because I think both you and I agree to that. It adds a second round of direct payments to individuals and makes those benefits more generous than the earlier round, which limited payments for independent children to $500. It's going to go up to $1,000, maximum $600 per $6,000 per household. Okay. Then hazard paid for essential workers. This is the one that gives me a kick.
Yeah,
This
we
is-
had an off the mic discussion
Yeah,
about
and it
that.
creates $200 billion called the Heroes Fund. Now, who wants to vote against the Heroes Fund? I love heroes.
We all do.
My dad was my hero. Mm-hmm. That's it. He went to work all the time and put up with my mom. That was a joke. I love my mom. If she was still with me, she would smack me upside the head for that one.
But as Mark and I are going to discuss, what constitutes an essential worker?
This is where they put it out here. It's $200 billion, a hero fund that would provide hazard paid supplement for essential workers such as first responders, healthcare workers, sanitation workers, and those at businesses required to stay open. So marijuana shops, liquor stores,
Grocery stores.
grocery stores. It's like the most needed essential worker that needs a benefit now are the ones that have been deemed by the government as non-essential. Those are the essential workers that need to be paid by the government because their income has been yanked away from them.
Right.
I wish I had a doctor's degree. I wish I had a nursing degree. They're getting paid quite well right now, and they're working. I'm not. Okay, you're working in law.
Right.
Court systems are all shut
Are
down.
shut
you
down.
can't do squat.
Nothing.
First time the
Nothing.
lawyers hasn't been able to make money.
No, they've been trying to have hearings, teleconferencing with the judges.
Right.
And the sum total of that, the majority of the cases is just being continued.
Right.
That's all. So there's
So we're gonna
nothing
we're
real
gonna
that's
run
going
through
on.
a few of these really quick.
Go
The
ahead.
Postal Service, it gives $25 billion. They've already discussed this inside and out. It's the pension plan of the postal workers that are gone out. And I love Trump's comments. It's like, look, Amazon and all these other carriers that use the Postal Service because they're losing money on shipping, boxes around.
right.
It's like, wait a minute, bring it up. The private is FedEx and UPS. They make money.
Right. They sure
Okay,
do.
they pay their drivers really good. They got great pensions. They do really good.
Right.
Why isn't our Postal Service doing the same thing? Okay, but they don't. All right, so, and I'm not offending any postal workers. I love you guys to death. But the truth of it is the management is horrific. And there's a lot of management issues in the postal office. Now, housing assistance, I love this one, provides $175 billion to states to help renters and homeowners pay mortgages, rent, and other housing costs and avoid default as much of as money aimed at a lower income. They can easily do that by going ahead and making it very easy through legislation of mortgage companies to put it on the back end.
That's all they
without
have to do.
rewriting the entire loan.
And we talked about
Okay,
that.
yes, we did.
talked
We
about
did.
that. Absolutely.
So let's get into the next one here. Is highways and mass transit. There hasn't been a public transit system that's made money yet. They're all subsidized. They got to rethink that one all in itself, right? But anyways, they got a $15 billion for state transportation departments for highway needs and $16 billion for mass transit systems hit by the massive drop-off of ridership and lower income from fares, right?
Just real quick, I got to jump on that real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody that's smart knows what that's about. Let's keep the unions happy.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said,
And this is
weaponizing
the-
it. Go
and
ahead.
this is another one. Education dedicates $100 billion to states, school districts, and universities to defray additional costs associated with the pandemic. Harvard has a $40 billion foundation. Something else that I really started looking into as well. All of these med schools and Ivy League schools that do medical research,
Right.
they keep the patents on the medications they create.
They do.
They make
Yeah.
all the money off
They
it.
do. Yes, they
And so
do.
wait a minute, you did the research, you did all of this on taxpayers' money, and now you get to keep the patent. What the hell is that all about? Right? So now testing and healthcare provide. Okay, I got that. That's an
fine.
easy one.
The
Private
unemployment.
health insurance. Okay, provide subsidies for laid off workers to remain on their employer provided health insurance plan through the so-called COBRA benefits, and creates an open enrollment period to sign up for Obamacare. They want to push people back onto Obamacare. If the insurance companies had any kind of a heart, they would just say, okay, we're just going to continue extending it. If you're still employed,
all
you've
they
been
have to
furloughed.
do.
If you've been furloughed, you're going to maintain your insurance. No big deal.
Right.
To throw them on Cobra is about 5 times the amount.
Oh, it's
of a normal.
hell expensive.
I've been tossed on that once or twice, and I said, screw it, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Right? But they should extend it. This is where the insurance companies need to dive in, step up to the plate, and say, you know what? Nobody's at fault here, and we're not going to penalize you for it. Okay? But this is some of the wish list that's on there, and they have a lot of legislation involved in there to take over their voting rights, your voting ability of being able to cast your vote in person. They want the whole nation to go vote by mail, which where the fraud is at. And I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. So anybody who wants to say that it's not and it's not there, this is quote unquote President Trump's, fear and insecurity about the elections. No, it is real. It is there, and it is vulnerable. when the County of Los Angeles uses an unsecured mail house, an unsecured printer for all of the vote-by-mail ballots, fraud is there. I don't care what you think. I want all elections to be vote-by-mail. On that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in once again to the Voice of Reason. Ted, bring it on home.
And as we've been talking about in this whole COVID-19, it is a serious situation, but we have got to get back to the business of living. And in the meantime, as I always say, ignorance prevails when rational minds sit back and do nothing. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Mark Reed and Ted Durden, only on LA Talk Radio.